people of the internet, the Twitchlings that are in the Legion, YouTubers, let me tell you, y'all really know how to party. And I'm saying party, like party with an O rather than A. The past day and a half has been filled with such excitement. My phone really has been buzzing off the hook, although in true millennial fashion, it's on silent all the time. But I'm so happy to see you guys getting really, really into this. And we're excited to be here with you on this journey. As Donna and Seth said, my name is Azure, just like the cloud, but a little bit more in physical form. And really, I ought to talk to Microsoft about this because my mom's name gave me this name, 31 years ago, and I think she should be getting some credit right about now. Anyway, I'll get to that later. None of my personal issues, but we are going to talk about Power Automate today, which is Microsoft's low slash no code solution for automation. We are going to be building some workflows, some scripts that will have you everything wanting to put a little bit of power behind your life. And let me tell you, if you fall as head over heels as I do, you're going to want to spend all your time doing it. So some things that Power Automate can help us do. We heard in the last session that Charles was saying you can combine all parts of the Power Platform, and that's absolutely true. So Power Automate can do things for you, like you want to be notified when an Excel column changes. You want to get attachments from an email and automatically move them to a folder and rename them with something else. What about creating tasks in Planner? Or maybe even getting a notification in Teams when a certain hashtag is used on Twitter. Power Automate can do all of that for you. So today's session is going to be how I got into this space. And then we're also going to run through the Power Automate website so you guys can get started if you haven't already checked into it. But to get started, before we get started, sorry, connect with me online. I am on Twitter at amac_ncheese. Right below here, you'll get to see what I'm working on in terms of flows, things that are happening in my life. And I've got a really cute backyard groundhog named Alfredo, who I just started posting about, and you'll get to see some things about him too. This is, before I forget, this is your homework assignment. So MS Learn, I will also show you where you can find some resources in the Power Automate website, but this is complete for you to use with videos, tutorials, apply your skills so you'll be upskilled in no time. Also giving a plug to the Cloud Challenge. I couldn't find the slide to put it here, but do the Cloud Challenge as well. And as Donna said, add this to your portfolio. All right, so a little bit about me. I work as a senior technologist for a pharmaceutical company called GSK. Despite the word technologist in it, I have nothing to do with cloud or computer tech. I actually work in project management, and I help provide technical support for a drug manufacturing plant. So my background's in biochemistry. That is the only degree that I have. And my experience in coding was roughly about fifth grade, so 99, 2000 era, where I taught myself HTML through CarissaExplainsItAll.com. If you guys need an HTML reference, that is the place to go. It still exists. And I was building some pretty sweet websites in Yahoo GeoCities, RIP, little GeoCities, because it doesn't exist. And was just playing around with fonts and things like trailing ducks. And, that was really it for me. I remember doing this on a Windows 95 computer that my family had just bought. We upgraded from an MS-DOS. But apart from that, I never considered a career in tech and fell into pharma, and just kind of how it went. So how did I get into the Power Platform? Late last year, I got an email from our newly minted digital data and analytics team that said, hey, we saw that you might be interested in some automation software called Microsoft Flow. So that's what it was called before Power Automate. And the email said, and I still have it, it said, Flow is a software that enables you to automate routine computer work for you and your teams. That's all it said. And I had no other context, and I decided, hey, I have some time on my hands. Let me just show up. And it was a Flow in a Day course put on by somebody from Microsoft, and we were working on an approval workflow. And truth be told, 50% of that stuff I did not understand, but as the day went on, I could see the wheels turning in my head like, holy crap, okay, one, this is really cool. Two, I could start thinking of projects already that maybe, we could reduce some time waste by automating it. But three, the idea that me could be a citizen developer. and create the stuff without having any tech background. I think it's absolutely phenomenal. So my first flow, I remember actually building in the back of a car. I was on my way to a half marathon with a buddy of mine and his fiance. We traveled to another state, and here I am with my laptop and my hotspot, and I just had to figure out this copy and replace file flow. I just had to, and that's how excited I was to learn about this. And it really hasn't dwindled any either. In fact, I get more excited about it. It's led to some really cool experiences. So we have an internal Facebook at our job. We have a group called the Power Rangers, something copyright infringement maybe, and it's led by a friend of mine now whose name is Simon. Hi Simon, I think he's watching. And I started posting some things in this group about Power Automate. Everybody else seemed to be posting things about apps and Power BI, and we use it a fair amount. And he ended up putting me in contact with a friend of his who runs a women in tech group, very all people friendly. Check them out, the Tech Stylers on Twitter. And I was asked to demo something, and I demoed the work that I had been doing for about 6 months. And actually, this is a group where I met Donna, and they were like, wait a minute, you've only been playing in this 6 months. Like, are you recording your journey? Like, what's your LinkedIn? Are you on Twitter? Are you on this? And so they really tried to usher me into this space to share more as a beginner, get the content online. And they also coerced me into doing Start Dev Change and the Power Platform conference that's happening next week too. So it's been kind of a very quick trajectory of where I've gone. I would still consider myself maybe like intermediate in flow. I wouldn't say quite advanced, but at this point, I'm building things for myself. I am building things for my department, for other departments, for our site, and people don't even know they're benefiting from Power Automate. So it's been pretty cool. And most recently, Simon and I were in a group where we taught a Power Platform boot camp to upskill employees around the globe. We had about 100 applicants. We took it down to 20, and we had 15 graduate. So I'm very proud of my Power Platform Bootcamp babies. I've bragged about them on Twitter. Okay, since this demo is going to go by really quickly, we're going to go ahead and go straight to the Power Automate website. Now, I will say you may have heard me say Flow and Power Automate. The website that we are at is flow.microsoft.com, and you're probably thinking, Azure, like, wow, what's going on? So, like I said before, Microsoft Flow is the original name. To align with the rest of the Power Platform, we now call it Power Automate. Now, friends, because I'm going to say we have a vibe going on here. We're friends now. Friends don't let friends call building what we do Power Automates, okay? So we build flows just like a workflow, but not a Power Automate. Spread the word. It's gonna be the hottest thing on the internet, okay? So we're building flows. So here we are going to walk a little bit through the website. So this is where you could go, and I know Brian earlier today showed you that you can also access Flow from within Microsoft Teams. This is true. The difference is that when you build a flow within a team, you can only see your team flow, so things that are shared with that Office 365 group. Whereas here, you'll be able to see all those flows, so both your team flows and your personal flows. So if you look here, Microsoft really wants to push you towards some templates, which I really encourage you all to explore if you haven't already. You can type in a couple of keywords here. It says choose an app, so you can choose Outlook, choose a task. Maybe it's send an email or an industry. If you type in like business or data, they'll also come up with a couple of templated ideas for you. Now, as you get a little bit more advanced in your studies, you'll see that you may not even need templates anymore, and you can build from scratch, which is the goal. But for now, templates are where it's at. So we're going to leave this here for a minute, and we're going to go to templates a little bit later because I want to show you a few things. So here is the popular services, which is also the same thing as connectors. You'll see that these are the kinds of things that people are using while building their flows. And if we click over here, we've got 405. Actually, this recently changed because when I looked this morning, it was 404. So it looks like this is the new one that came in today. So Microsoft is continually adding things. And as you can see, it's not just Microsoft applications that are here for you to use. There's everything from Twitter and social media to RSS. We've got common data service. So if you're using Power Apps, you're likely going to use this. We've got Facebook, Instagram, GitHub, and the list goes on and on. So you can search here for your connectors. excuse this, I couldn't get this to go away. So you can search for connectors here so you don't have to go through the whole list. And then there are, you may have noticed, two different types of connector. So the ones that have the premium notation do cost money. So just assess your ways of working and see if you need a premium connector. And if I'm not mistaken, there are also free trials, so you can try them out too. But the standard connectors will be just enough to get you set. And if you were to click on any of these, let's say SharePoint, if we were to click on one, it's going to tell you the types of triggers. We're going to talk about triggers and action soon. The type of triggers that you can use from SharePoint. So it's things like when a file is deleted or an item in a list is created. And these are going to be the kinds of things that set off your flow. And then they also give you a bunch of templates here as well, and we will get to that soon. Okay, so I'm going to take you over here to create, and we're going to talk about the different kinds of flows that are available. So we've got three main ones that you can build from templates. So automated, instant, and scheduled. There are also these two that you have to make from scratch. So user interface flows, you have a screen recorder, and Power Automate's going to record your movements around your screen and turn that into a flow. So if it's something like you have to log into a website and do X, Y, and Z, you can turn that into a flow, and you won't even have to. All you have to do is click a button, and it'll go for you. Maybe even sign you in. So this can be done in web browser. This can also be done on your desktop. There is also Power Automate Desktop that just came around where you can actually combine the two different ones now. Previously, you could not. It was just separate. Business process flows are ones that I don't really use, but it's going to lead you through steps in a flow or your end users, which I think is pretty cool. So we're going to focus on these three: automated, instant, scheduled. And this one, as it says, it's triggered by a designated event. So if we click here, you have a variety of options. And this list isn't extensive. This is just to give you an idea. But if you go in here and you type, I don't know, I'm going to pull SharePoint again because that's what's in my brain. SharePoint. And they give you all the triggers that are ready right here. So if we just click on one of these, like a file is created in a folder, let's just name this. Yeah, let's just put test for now and click create. It's going to create one block at the top as part of our flow, and this is your trigger. So it tells you exactly what information is needed in order to proceed. Then you've got like some settings over here. You can rename it. You can rename your flow here. You can peek the code. If I haven't mentioned, Power Automate is written in JSON. So as you get a little bit, more advanced, maybe you want to start looking into that. We use Markdown formatting and HTML as well in Power Automate too. We're just going to go back here. The next one is an instant flow. So this is just an as needed flow. You have to be the one to push the button or select a file in order to do it. This may be useful for things like sometimes I need some data and I want to copy it from one SharePoint list to another, but I don't want to be pulling that data all the time, right? I just want a subset of it. So you can do that. It can be you have files from another, let's see, teams. You have files that you want to move to another folder yourself. Do that. It can be a whole host of other things, but it's just supposed to be when you click that, it triggers the flow. And then the last one is scheduled flow. And that's exactly what it sounds like. You get to decide when and how it happens. When and the frequency of which it happens. So you come down here to this and you can make flows run every second, all the way up to every month. And this is helpful for things like if you want to send a notification to remember to submit a timesheet or a library book back to the library, you can set a scheduled flow to remind you later to do it. One that I really like is I have Power Automate assign me a task at the beginning of the month and set a due date for me. So I think that's a pretty neat feature there. Okay, so we are going to, I said I'd point out before that there are some learning materials here. So you can check this out. You'll also see, it'll see documentation at the top as the tab, but like 2 tabs over, it has the Microsoft Learn material. So you're in the right place. You can, there are different data sources that you can use. There is also AI Builder. I cannot say I have played around with this yet, but maybe soon in the future. So we're going to go over here to templates. And so we're going to run through a bit of a demo just using a template. So I will show you here. I want to, let's say I'm using some safety incidents at my site. So I have a whole flow that's actually built based on safety incidents, and people submit them and it does a whole cascade of actions. But for now, we're just going to say, what if we want to add a safety event in this SharePoint list and we want to put it in Teams? Let's do that from a template. So I've already set up a SharePoint site here, just with a couple of items. So you see the kinds of information that we have. If we click over here for a new item, it's going to be what kind of incident category do we have? We have an injury or an illness. I feel like I'm playing a game of Clue, to be honest, because I'm like in the kitchen with the candlestick or with the taco. Who knows? The type of incident that happens, we have just a list of things here, date and time, and a couple of other fields. And so we're going to just cancel this out for a minute. And then I want to show you, I have already set up, ooh, I have already set up a team just with a test channel. So we're going to populate a message here. And that's one of the options that you can do. We can send a chat message if we really want to. We can put a channel message. We can tag people in here. There's a whole lot that you can do with Power Automate. Okay, so we are going to come over here and browse the templates. And our template, we're just going to type in a couple of keywords here because there are so many here. We went over the different types of flows in here, so you can see some of the connectors that are used in them, what type of flows they are, so automated, instant, or scheduled, and then the popularity of them. But we could go on and on, just scrolling through here. So we're just going to type in a few keywords. So let's do SharePoint, item, and Teams, and that should drill down just a little bit. Let's see. Aha, post a message to Teams when an item is created to a SharePoint list. So we're going to click on this one, and it's going to bring us to this screen, and it's going to tell us what the flow does for us. What's really great about templates, one, these are created by Microsoft to give you a jumping point, right, to start off. But citizen developers can also create their own flows, submit them to Microsoft, and hopefully they end up in here just in case it's useful. Because not every flow is going to have 615,000 users. Like the one that we just picked, I think has 200, but it's useful. The other thing about templates that's really neat is you can build onto this. So say you didn't want a message in a channel, right? What if you wanted that chat message? What if you wanted an email? You can just as easily delete these steps and do something completely different. All right, so we're gonna do post message team. Let's just rename this to, well, let's just call this safety incidents. And we can come over here and we can rename this if we wanted to. So we could say when an item is added to the safety incidents list, or I don't know, whatever you would like to do, we can do that. Power Automate gives you very specific instructions. So here it's telling us it needs two things. It needs a site address and a list name. So we're just going to come down here and select demo team. If you don't happen to see your website available here, you can always just copy the URL, enter custom value, and paste it into here and hit enter, and it should return something for you. And it'll also give you a list name. Once we know what our team is, demo team, going to select our list, which is safety events. And then our flow is just going to have us post a message to a channel in Teams. So same thing here. We have some options. It says just we want a team, a channel, and a message. So we're going to find our team name and also enter as custom value if you can't get it to work. And then channel, it's also just going to give you a selection of channels. And now when you get further advanced and you start doing variables and everything, maybe this becomes a couple of variables so you don't have to have it straight from when one item is created and send it to one channel. Maybe you have a bunch of teams or a bunch of channels that need to get notifications and you can direct it where to go. Okay, so in this message bit, we have something called dynamic content. And actually, let me back up for a minute. So here we said that this is our trigger, and our trigger is always going to be at the top. If perchance you delete this, Flow is going to tell you, or Power Automate is going to tell you, hey, you actually have to add something. So it'll just have a pop-up menu, and we can do that really quickly. It's just going to tell you, hey, you need to add something here at the top. So we can either search, we can click here for SharePoint, we can search for SharePoint, we can look down here for it. So let's just click here. And so the top result when an item is created, we'll go back here and type in our list. And it's just that easy. Okay, so back to back to regular scheduled programming. Over here, we have a menu that gives us some options, and Brian touched on this a little bit with dynamic content. So we are able to pull information from a previous step and use it in our next step, which I think is the coolest thing in the world. It's everything from the fields that match up to what we had in our SharePoint list to things like sharing links. So if you needed to get a link to the item in SharePoint, you can get a link to the item. You'll have to format it in the proper like language to make it a hyperlink, but you still have access to things like making it a link, which I think are really, really cool. So here, we're going to have a message here and we're doing safety alerts. And let's see, there's some advanced options too. So we're going to say subject of this messages. Let's say this is going to the safety team. So we can just say new safety incident. And our message is we want a couple of things in here. So let's say who is affected. Let's say we want their name. We want a description. We want the date that it happened. And maybe, I don't know. For now, we'll leave that. I'll think of something else. So we can go in here. We can format this if we want to. We can make this bold, or we don't have to. But what we will do is do a little bit of formatting so it comes out in different lines rather than kind of all together. So we're going to take the name here. And our field was the affected employee name. And we just want their display name, but we could put a picture in there. We could put their email in there, their department, because it's all pulls from their Outlook profile. So we're going to do display name. And then we're going to put a break here. Already bringing in some of that HTML. So our description of the incident, that's what happened. And then we're going to do date and time of incident. So Power Automate is going to return our date and time in a string of date and then time. So it's not going to be in a really pretty format. But one thing that you can do to manipulate this is go over to the expressions tab. I love myself. I love me some expressions. So I'm just going to show you what we can do with this to format it. So we're going to plug in format date time, which is also in the menu down below. We've got a ton of functions that we can use. Format date time is really easy. So we're going to do format date time. We can plug in our dynamic content for our date and time of what this happened. And if we just want the day, we're going to format this. It's going to plug this in for us. We don't even need to worry about it. We'll do a comma because it's a string. And then we're going to do the format. I want date, month, year. Okay, so I'm just going to leave this here so you can see what kind of format it actually does. So we have a new safety incident. I think we have everything we need, and we'll just put break here. Call it a day. All right, we just built our first flow. So we're going to save this and test it. And so we'll be able to see the flow run after we add something to this test list. And we all know what live demos look like, so fingers crossed this works. So we're going to go up here and we're going to add a new item. And I think we're only going to fill in a few just because of for time. So we're going to say that we had it was me. I'm going to type in my name, and we said we needed the date and time. And I don't remember what else we put in here. I should have thought of that sooner. Maybe it was manager name. Okay, we're going to see what Flow does for us here. We're going to click Save. And if we go back to the website, it tells us it's going to start working. So it's just scanning for this trigger to happen. And oh, it ran successfully. Lucky us. So when an item is created, we can click and see what the inputs were. It gives us a list name, which just pulls from the cloud. And then it tells us that it's going to post. That's what it was. It was description. We were waiting in the flow. So we're just going to go over to Teams. You know what? There is a bug that I recently read about that it is in Markdown now for the next week. So ignore the formatting, but you get the idea that we have now created this message in a channel with the information that we want. So this automatically happens. This is just a small subset of things that you can do with Power Automate, a very basic example. But now this prevents you from having to go check that SharePoint list every time something's there, or using the workflow function from SharePoint, which can be a little glitchy because before you couldn't send Teams messages. only emails. But if we wanted to, we could add a few more steps to here. We could add, maybe it's a planner task to fill out a document. It could be we add a link to the item. It could be that we create a template of a safety, um, like a safety sheet to fill out for people. And we could even have it populated from a Microsoft Word template. There are so many possibilities with this, let me tell you. Our time's running short here, but I want you to go ahead tonight if you have some time. Go ahead, plug in, get your account signed in, and start taking a look at these templates. Look at some YouTube videos, follow some of us on Twitter, see what we're working on. And we're really glad that you're here with us. I hope that you guys are excited. I'm going to hop over to the Twitch chat and be there for a little bit to answer any questions you may have. Thanks for letting me hang out with you guys today. I'll see you later.